Welcome back to another episode of BNI San Diego. And as you can tell from my co-host, we've got a returning guest, one of my favorites, Mark Appelbaum. And Mark, again, is an area director for the BNI Tampa region, all the way across the country from San Diego. But Mark, you don't live, right? You don't live in Tampa.
I live a half hour north of Salt Lake City, Utah.
So just a little ways away, right?
Just
but you know,
with
the things that have been going on and technology and all these things, it allows a lot of people to work from a lot of places you wouldn't even imagine, right? I mean, you can literally nowadays you could work on the beach and your customers would never necessarily know the difference.
And I need to work on my tan. Yeah. So I'll
so
be in
Mark,
Tampa in 2 months, but yes, I'm from New York, but I live out in Utah. So
very nice. So I'm really excited about today's topic. So why don't you go ahead and share with us what our topic is for today?
So today's topic, and thank you, Ed, for having me on. I'm loving doing these with you. Today's topic is: are you looking for credit or are you looking for credibility?
Ooh, that's interesting. I'm leaning into this one because I want you to tell us a little bit more.
So as we know in BNI, we have a process that we call VCP. Visibility leads to credibility, leads to profitability. Now, the way I describe the visibility part is how you show up here or in BNI or in business is how you show up. One place is how we assume you show up anywhere else. So if you're sending us positive messages, then you're building credibility with us. So if, as far as BNI goes, if you're showing up early to the meeting, if you're engaged in the meeting, if you're scheduling, like really bringing value to the other members instead of what's in it for me, you're building credibility. But if you're going to a meeting and you're sitting on your phone the whole time, or if you're late every time, or you're losing credibility. And so today's topic about are you looking for credit or credibility is based on the activities we do in BNI and in business and overall. So quick question for you, Ed. Do you have members that, and you're not going to call anyone out, but do you have members that you would say, like in the world of doing one-to-ones and stuff, that they do a lot of one-to-ones, or it looks like they're doing a lot of one-to-ones, which is a one-to-one is meeting with a fellow member, learning about them, how you could help build their business, and they're learning about you and how they could help build your business. And often, do you have members that on paper look like they're doing lots and lots of one-to-ones, but then you look at their referrals and their closed business and it doesn't seem to add up?
So I'm not going to talk about our members here in San Diego. I'm actually going to I'm going to call myself out.
Okay.
Well, I'm now over 18 years in BNI.
Okay.
And when I started in BNI in Tucson, Arizona, I think what you just described could have been an element of me during the beginning parts of me being in BNI. And some of it was from not knowing any better. Mm-hmm. And then some of it was because when the vice president would do their report, or we would get the statistics from the leadership team on how people were doing, I wanted to make sure that visibly I was seen as a credible person. So I think for a period of time, it may have been more about credit, so I could check something off the list, right? Mm-hmm. Versus credibility. That's an interesting topic.
So, and that's great that you could look back at that and look at and take ownership of how you were as a member then and how you improved since then. What areas do you see where members can improve on?
I mean, whether it's a BNI member or a business person in general, that, you know, again, outside of BNI, whether it's outside or inside, there's multiple areas. On the inside of BNI part, we're talking about things like referrals, right? We have individuals, we've seen chapters, not necessarily in San Diego, and they could be anywhere, but we have this little app called Nextdoor. Right? Are you familiar with Nextdoor?
I am.
What's Nextdoor?
Nextdoor is based on where you live and your area code. It's the community in that area that often will be going, hey, I'm looking for a plumber. I'm looking for a fence company. I lost my cat.
Right?
Could be anything. And people will respond to those posts.
And so we've got individuals, and we're trying to do a lot of education on this because it's a wonderful platform. There's wonderful things that happen. And the way that we look at it is it's the start of a potential referral, but it's not a referral, right? Because all you're doing is suggesting someone yet. And what I love about, and I'll bring BNI back into the conversation. What I love about BNI and what Ivan has taught, Dr. Ivan Miser has taught for many years, is in order for something to be a referral, there's a triune kind of that upside down upside down triangle, right? Yeah. Where there's introductions that get made and there's connections versus the element of a lead where, hey, you know what? You're a realtor. I took a picture of this house that was for sale by owner. Yeah. So put that in as a referral for me.
Yeah, there's got to be three people as far as referrals go.
On the referral side of things,
there's got to be three people: you, the other member, and the person needing the service. And whether it's Nextdoor or Facebook or other social media apps. When I think about if somebody's tagging you and they're looking for credit just for tagging you, it's almost like walking down the main street of San Diego, let's say, with a stack of, like, if I had a stack of your business cards, I could walk down the street and go, here, call Ed, he's great. Call Ed, call Ed. Because in a way, yes, it's exposure. And yes, tagging somebody on Nextdoor or any of the other social media apps is exposure for that person. But until it's a referral where the person says, yes, I want to talk to Ed. Can you give me his number? I'm waiting for his call. That's a referral. That's where you build credibility. But if you're just tagging people left and right and you're counting that as a referral, I promise you're losing credibility.
Well, and you rightly said, right? It's the start of a referral, but it's not a referral. And we want people to really build. I mean, a big element of BNI and as a professional is building legitimate credibility, right? In the normal business atmosphere, you look at things like, what is it, Yelp and Google. What's the Google
reviews?
Google reviews, right? How many times have you met someone on that side of things that said, hey, you know what? I'm really focusing on my social media presence, my presence to our local community. Hey, Mark, can you do me a favor and just go, because we're good buddies, right? We're good friends. Can you go put in can you go to Yelp or Google and put in a review for me?
Well, I've never used your service, so I really like you.
But Mark, you're a friend of mine. You know me.
I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
But does just knowing someone constitute the fact that you know how they do business?
It does not.
Right? Because I have people over the years, and I'll say that, I have people in my life that I would trust with my children, my wife, my whatever, I would, money, whatever it is, hands down, no problem. I absolutely trust them. But do I necessarily want to do business with them? Not all the time, right? Because they do business different than I do. So just asking someone to put something on a social media post so you get quote unquote credit is not really about building credibility. I love this topic.
And, we referenced earlier one-to-ones, and a one-to-one, you don't even have to be a member of BNI to have one-to-ones with other business professionals or anyone for that matter. And Ed, have you ever met somebody who, whether they were a BNI member or not, you met with them and it seemed like it was a really one-sided conversation, like they were all about telling you about them, which, by the way, when I first joined BNI or got involved with BNI 18 to 20 years ago, that was me. I was a guy that was talking about me all the time. And sometimes I still think I got to work on that, but I'm way better than I used to be. But have you ever met anyone like that? Like the end of the meeting, you were like, I never got a word in.
Yeah. All the time.
And do you think that person does that with every one-to-one that they have?
Yes. And honestly, so when I came into BNI, I came in the auto industry. And you want to talk about an industry that has a bad rap for it's that hard sale.
Yeah.
It's not about the person that's in front of you. It's about selling them a car.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that element of what you're talking about right there.
Also talking about one-on-ones, and this is more BNI related, but I recently, just in the last few weeks, came across a story of a member that has done on paper a lot of one-on-ones, and in 1 month did like 30 plus one-on-ones. But the chapter that they're in doesn't even have 30 members in it. And I found out that there was a couple of members of the chapter that said, well, so-and-so did all these one-on-ones, but we weren't on that list. And they felt like, what's wrong with me? Why are they not wanting to meet with me?
Oh, interesting.
And so the message you're sending that your chapter, if you're doing one-on-ones like that, they could be wondering, wait a minute, what's wrong with me? How come this person isn't wanting to spend time with me? And that's not the message you want sent. You want to make sure everyone feels included in the relationship process.
Oh my gosh, huge. So wait, Mark, you're telling me that tomorrow when I go play golf with a member in the chapter and we're just hanging out for 4 hours and playing golf because we've had it planned for several weeks, that's not a one-to-one? I can't put that in as a one-to-one?
Well, there's a gray area there.
Okay.
Because if you're hanging out, that's hanging out with a buddy. And that is building a relationship.
Yeah.
But a serious one-on-one is, Ed, how can I help you build your business? Who are you looking for? That when I hear that, I could refer them to you. That's really a genuine one-on-one. And so again, and I know there's members out there that will do a social. They'll get to lunch, go to lunch with a dozen of their members and count a dozen one-to-ones. And if they're individually having conversations like we just had, okay, it's still a gray area, but to have integrity with this, really,
ooh, that's a good word.
Really, did you really devote your time to that person and them devote their time to you to really see how, again, if you're having lunch with a group of people, most likely you're devoting some time to one or two people. And it's your karma.
There's another good word.
Do you count that, or are you really wanting credit, or what else could you have done in that conversation, in that lunch, to make it really a quality one-to-one?
Well, and I think one-to-ones, because we're on that topic here for a minute or two, one-to-ones are really the intentional, right? Like you said, it's getting to know someone so I can learn about their business so that I can learn how to refer to them. And then at the end of it, coming out with an action plan of, now that I learned about you, man, what can I do? What's my action plan coming out of that? Yeah. Which is very different than, going to having a beer with a buddy, or going golfing, or going to a social environment. All of those elements are part of building relationships. But, and it's interesting, as I was thinking about just now, the elements of credit versus credibility. Credit is really, it's more a visual, or more, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's very superficial, right? It's checking the box off on something that I need to do. Yeah. Right. We have this thing in BNI called the power of one. Mark, what's the power of one?
The power of one are based on the 5 activities we do in BNI. Are you doing them on a regular basis? And but at the same time, there's doing the activities, and then there's doing them effectively.
That's a big difference, right? And oftentimes, because in a chapter environment or a business environment, however you want to look at it, and this happens in BNI, this happens in business, this happens with employees, right? It's okay. There are 5 things to the power of one, so I want to make sure that I check off that one. Oh, did that one? One-to-one. like you said, I went and I talked to someone for a few minutes and, oh, I can check that box off. Oh, I gave your name out, Mark, at a family event. So, oh, I can check off that one. Oh, I was in a car with someone and they were listening to a podcast on business. Oh, I can check off that one. Right. But that's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the credibility that comes from what you actually do. And a little while ago, you said, you didn't say it quite like this, but basically the concept of how you do one thing is how you do all things.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in a business environment and how you go about doing things, that gets related over to when I finally do have a referral for you or whatever it is. Like you said earlier, if somebody's constantly showing up late, that you lose your detraction from referability. Because you mentioned earlier about the VCP process, right? And the goal is to go up in the VCP process. What a lot of people don't realize is when it's just about credibility, you can actually slide down the referral process and actually go backwards.
Yeah. And some may think, and again, based on reviews, that based on your service you provide and the quality human being you are, that is going to take you up the curve. But again, it's very often it's the other little things that you're doing that you may be not mindful of that is sending a message to everyone else that is potentially losing credibility. And actually, a particular story comes to mind. About 6 years ago, there was a member in a chapter who, great guy, told great jokes, did a great service. He was in the trades, did great work in the work that he did, but he was late every week. And literally every week, like not even a couple minutes, like really late. And there was a new member in the chapter who wasn't new to BNI, but was new to the chapter. And this new member knew the value of being early.
Yeah.
And he had 2 referrals for this late guy. But it went to another business, the same category in another chapter. And the guy lost out on about 10 grand in business only because he was late.
Well, because the expectation is when you see someone, now there are those one-offs, right? Because at some point we're going to be late.
Yeah,
because of stuff happens, right?
But if it's consistent,
yes, that basically tells someone it goes back to that. How you do one thing is how you do all things.
Yeah,
absolutely. And
so I don't recall if we shared that story on the last podcast about treating BNI like your number one client. But again, being late here sends the message that if I give you a referral, you're going to be late there. So whether you're in BNI or not, just in business, how you handle your schedule is going to reflect on the amount of business you're going to receive. If you're responsible and again, showing up like, man, I'm taking this seriously, people are going to go, man, Ed shows up amazingly well here. He must be great out there.
Absolutely. And one of the things that Dr. Meisner, the founder of BNI, taught me many years ago was, Ed, people are always watching. So I spent a period of time with him at our global headquarters. And before I went to my first national conference as an employee of BNI, and I'm now no longer an employee of BNI, I'm a franchisee with BNI. But before my very first conference, which was in Rhode Island many years ago, we had a conversation and he goes, Ed, I want you to understand something. When you're at one of our conferences and you're on my team, from the moment you step out of your room until the moment you come back to your room, you're on, right? You represent me, you represent the brand, your credibility, my credibility is very visible. And it's stuck with me and just helping me realize that whatever I'm doing, because of this little logo that I've got, this BNI shirt logo that I'm wearing and the brand, that credibility in what I'm doing, it goes a long way and people are always watching. And you know what? Am I going to screw up? Absolutely. It's guaranteed. But it's how I go about coming out of that screw up or how I handle things. And I know that that we were talking about another podcast that we're going to be working on, having to do a little bit. That's a little teaser for a future podcast. But building our credibility side of things. But I love the element of really wanting to help our listeners get and understand you don't want credit. You really want credibility. Yeah. Because credit goes away, right? After you check it off, you throw the piece of paper away. Your credibility goes with you. Mm-hmm. That stays with you. That says who you are.
So I'm guessing we only have a short time left.
We are coming, yes.
So the invitation to all you listening, is if you're looking at yourself and the activity you're doing in BNI or in your business and going, what areas can I really tweak or improve on?
Yeah.
So that, because you got to always look within and go, okay, am I really looking for that acknowledgement, that credit, or am I really just wanting to make sure I'm constantly giving value and making sure I'm improving the relationships I have in a credible way? Then it's in your court. It's in your court because you have the power to make sure that you get better at what you're doing. And Ed's here, I'm here, whatever your support system is, reach out to them. We're here to make sure, because we care that you're successful in whatever you're doing.
And I appreciate the fact that you brought that up. We actually want to hear from you. If you have stories, if you've experienced moments whether it was you, because again, I'm willing to be transparent, and I shared towards the beginning the things that I've done wrong. But if you've ever had experiences or have some stories to share in this area of, do you want credit or credibility? Send us an email, send us your story, send us a topic, those types of things at podcasts with an S at the end, podcasts at BNISD.com. Podcasts with an S at BNISD.com. We would love to hear from you. And as Mark shared, we want to be able to be a support for you and help you. That's the whole reason we come here each and every week. That's why we want to be able to do this, is to be able to bring support to our BNI members, but also to those in business in general. How can we support you in the growth of your business and helping you become a better professional, helping you become more referable? And the moment you become more, your credibility rises, guess what? You automatically become more referable.
Yeah.
Right? Mark, It's always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to our future podcast on the other topic that we talked about. And again, that's a little teaser for our audience, because you're going to want to listen to that one. But it's always a pleasure having you. And any parting words for our business people on just that importance of building credibility and not worrying about credit for something?
Well, credit is like our ego.
Ooh, whoa, there we go.
Where can I look better to others? You don't have to. Just how can I keep bringing value to others? Just keep focusing on bringing value to others, and don't worry about the what's in it for you.
Credit, that just brought something into my mind. Credit is me talking about me. Credibility is somebody else talking about me.
Yeah.
Whoa, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to end the podcast there. Again, feel free to reach out with us, whether it's on this particular topic where you've got a story to share or an example, or if there are other topics related to business and some of the other areas surrounding that, send us an email at podcasts@BNISD. Again, the email will be down in the show notes. You can go ahead and click on that and send us an email. And we look forward to being back with you next week. And again, Mark, thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.